All right, everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining today. We got quite a few people on. We're up to 15, and maybe we'll hit 20 if we're lucky. But thanks for joining. One of the things that we promise as part of our strategic partner program is some good education, right? On maybe some things that we don't necessarily learn all the time, or we get so bogged down into day-to-day business of kind of what happens. I think sometimes we forget that there are some things that we can learn along the way that can actually help us do better than we've ever done before. One of the things I've been doing over the past couple months is I've been really studying like what makes a great salesperson, because you guys all know me. I mean, most of you guys know me, but back in the Nextiva days, I hired 45 channel managers there. And we were pretty lucky because I went and just took the people I wanted, right? And so I knew what I was getting most times. But even sometimes when I thought I knew what I was getting, I wasn't getting that. And I just saw like common mistakes happening in the sales process, and it would just drive me insane to the core of who I was, because I'm like, man, you could be doing like 50% more sales if you just did this or that or this other thing. So it got me thinking, like, what if I were to put together a training for partners on kind of how to take that next step? And it morphed into this massive training. Like, we're going to do 3 of these over the rest of the year, each about an hour long. I've got it all ready to go, and we're just going to go today through as much as we can get through, and then we'll continue on the next event. Two things I'm going to ask of everyone on the call. Number one, don't be quiet. Okay. I expect this to be a conversation, not Charlie Brown's teacher talking to you guys. I want real world examples of like what you think. If you think I'm full of crap, that's fine. Honestly, say it. Like, I don't care. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But I just want this to be a discussion and us thinking differently about how we're running our businesses, how we're dealing with customers, and all those good things. So let's go ahead. You guys are seeing my screen? Thumbs up if you're seeing my screen. Okay. So do me a favor. If you want to say something, just chime in. Okay, just interrupt me. It's all good. So I wanted to start.
Right, just wait just a second. Is everybody seeing the screen? Because I just upgraded to this new version.
You're not? Okay, hold on.
No, we're not.
I'm making sure it's not me. Now I can see something.
There we go.
Adam already said it was him and not you.
I was trying to find a thumbs up in case I could see it.
Let's blame it on Adam. I like that.
Started the meeting, so thank you, Adam, for.
I like that. So question I want to ask you here is, why are you doing the work that you do today? And open discussion. Tell me why. Why did you pick to be in sales?
I would say solve problems and add value.
What was that, Chris?
Solve problems and add value to people in general.
Solve problems. That's good. What else? Alan, were you chiming in? I thought I heard you.
I wasn't, but I was thinking about it. I agree. I do like helping other people solve their problems. That's very rewarding. But the other reason I initially got into sales is because I was in operations to begin with, and it was really nice not to bang my head against the wall every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in?
I will say, and I kind of did this when I wrote my book, but it's really 23 years ago, I did this to pay the bills. 10 years ago, I did this to solve problems and provide value. Today, I do this so that we can give back to the community and be a blessing to others. So, with our mantra being community service and faith driven, we just give a percentage of our revenue back to the community, and that's why we do what we're doing today, and that makes it easy coming into work.
Amen, Mike.
I love that. And these are all good answers, right? And did you all notice some commonalities there? The commonality I noticed was everyone mentioned at some point I wanted to help customers solve problems, right? Every one of the 3 that chimed in, which is great. We want to understand why we do what we do, but I want you to think about this. a lot of times we fly by the seat of our pants, not because we want to, but because we get so caught up in the day-to-day nonsense of what's going on in our business. But, flying by the seat of your pants is always precedes crashing by the seat of your pants. And I'm telling you, at Nexiva, I am telling you right now, we flew by the seat of our pants all the time. And we actually loved it, but it caused a lot of grief at points that was really unnecessary. So I think it's important also to understand that most people fail because they haven't learned the right skills to succeed. A lot of people think they know kind of the right way of doing things, because it's always been that way. But, Anthony Robbins is a really sharp guy. Like, I don't know if you ever listen to this guy, but he's very sharp. He knows a lot about a lot of different things. And a lot of times in the world of sales, I see two people right next to each other, both who have all the ability in the world, yet one of them trounces the other one. And it really comes down to skill set, right? They've taken the time to kind of learn the right skills to succeed. So, we talked about kind of why you do what you do, but I want to talk now about defining sales. So I need a couple people just to kind of step forward and tell me how you define sales.
Short answer, I define sales by providing a service that someone needs.
Okay, service that someone needs. What else?
Yeah, I think it was said earlier. I mean, ideally, it's solving for a need or a problem or some other driver, right? There's you don't sell somebody something because you want to sell it to them. You sell it to them because they actually need it for some reason, right? You might have to help them realize that, but you're solving for a need.
Solving for a need or a problem, right? What else?
I think a sale to me is the recognition of being selected as the trusted advisor for our client. In other words, because everybody does what we do. Honestly,
Yeah.
everybody does. Telsystem has 100 competitors, but they chose you for a reason. So a sale to me is they chose me over my competitors, or they chose me because they trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are all valid answers, and what I'm here to tell you today is that what you've kind of learned about sales is going to change. Your paradigms are going to shift a little bit, hopefully. Now, you may come out of this and say, yeah, I don't like that, or I don't think it will work, but I'm telling you right now that be open to what I'm about to show you all, because it really is a change from what most people think is sales. The way I define it is by getting the customer to view change as a way to solve their problems. Because if you think about it, a couple of you said, finding a customer need. But I would counteract that by saying, do customers really know what they need? A lot of times I talk to customers, they have no idea what they need. They don't know. And there may be other things that they need that they're not even aware of. So, I be thinking of this as really, you want to view change as a way to solve their problems. Now, the problem with that is that humans don't like change, right? We very much push back on change. They value consistency and are afraid of change. So you have competing things here, right? You need to get them to see change as a way to solve their problems. People are kind of push back on change a lot of times. And you just have to remember that you're not selling the thing. You're not selling voice. You're not selling bandwidth. You're not selling cybersecurity. You're selling the results of what the thing does for them. It's deeper. Because, it's like, I always like to say, listen, if I came up to you and said, hey, listen, Chris, I want to give you a ton of freshly fresh cow dung, and I'll bring it to your house for free, and I'm just going to dump it in your front yard. You're probably not too apt to take me up on that. But if I sell you on the results of what that's going to do, by the way, Chris, this has shown that your lawn is going to grow way better. It's going to be more greener. We'll spread it out for you. And at the end of the day, you're going to have the best lawn in the neighborhood. Now, all of a sudden, that same exact scenario is something that you might consider. So it's not the thing you're selling. Like, too often we sell the thing. And that's the wrong way of looking at it in my view. It's the results. So if you want to become a sales monster, there are three core things that you need to do. First thing, you need to become a problem finder and a solver, not a product pusher. Remember, if you can solve a problem for the customer, you notice I don't say need, because they may not know what their need is, but they may know what the problem is. It's not, that's super critical. Second thing, you need to ask the right questions at the right time. Now, part of what I'm going to do here is I've put together, I'm not kidding, hundreds of questions that are going to get you in the right direction with your customers to get them to help them uncover what their problems are and to help you frame the conversation in the right way. So you're not pushing a product on them, you're solving a problem. And ultimately what you're doing here is you're trying to eliminate sales resistance, because Mike, you said it. There's 10,000 of you of ETSs out there, not exactly the same, but they all do the same thing, right? In some matter. So you've got to be able to do all three of these things. So the key here is becoming a problem finder and a problem solver, not a product pusher. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So let me ask you this. This is interaction time. The people that you're talking to on a daily basis, your prospects, do they have problems?
Yeah.
Every day.
I mean, they probably have emotional problems, family problems, business problems, right? I mean, that's just human nature, right? Of course they have problems in their business. But the question is, does your solution set the arrows in your quiver, do they solve those customer problems?
Yeah.
Yes.
Usually, yes. If they don't,
so.
I mean, obviously we do something different.
I hope so. So I'm going to ask you an interesting question here. I want you to reflect on this. What's the missing link here? Your customers have problems. Your solutions solve those problems. So then why are most customers not buying from you? And it's the truth of the matter. It's like baseball, right? And, we were talking about baseball at the beginning of this, the Braves, even the Braves and the Phillies, who are great teams. An amazing batter on those teams is going to bat maybe 325. That means 7 out of 10 times they will fail. They fail way more than they succeed. Same in sales. If you're closing 20%, 25%, 30%, you're doing pretty good, pretty good. So the question is, the customers have problems. Your solution solves those problems, but why do most people not buy? Anyone want to chime in?
It's two things. I think it's one, are you spending time asking the right questions to really understand the problems? And that could be problems on all fronts, right? I mean, it could be in operations, it could be in service delivery, it could be in different things, right? And then the other is, are you articulating how it solves that problem? And are you doing that well to get the buy-in? So that would be my two answers.
That's good. Very good. Anyone else want to chime in?
I think, Ira, you also have to look at, and there's been books written on this, is truly you can understand their problems, you can solve them, but truly, and I use it all the time, I use it today, is BANT. You know, making sure they have the budget to do what they need, the authority to sign the contract, the need, and the timing. When do they need this done? And I think if you clear all those BANTs, you're closing that link.
100%. I
Would
can't
agree
believe
with
how,
Mike on that 100%.
yeah, I can't believe honestly, how many times I sit in on a sales process and the salesperson doesn't know if they're even talking to the person who can make the decision or even influence the decision, right? That's authority. So 100%, Mike. I 100% agree. So
I agree
yeah.
with those entirely. I think when you get down to it, the number one reason people don't buy or don't buy from us or whatever, it's because they don't do anything at all. It's just simple inaction. I think that's, I mean, that's kind of oversimplifying it, but I think that is the more often when you dissect loss, they just simply don't do anything at all.
And that's an interesting point. We're going to get to that in a little bit, Brad, because I would agree with you that a lot of times they don't do anything. But there's an inherent problem there. And the inherent problem is we didn't help them understand or feel good that we're going to actually, make their life better by doing it. I would venture to guess we haven't done a good job in that case. So let me tell you what it's not. It's not your leads, because these are all like just things people say. It's not the way you think about things. It's not your mindset. It's not your personal development or lack of it. It's not how motivated you are. It's not your work ethic. It really comes down to wanting to, be a product finder and solve those problems. So, who wouldn't want to double or triple their compensation? And the thing is, you can really do that if you're not making enough money. That's the beauty about sales. If you learn the right skills, you could double, triple your compensation. Is it going to be easy? No, it's going to take some effort, right? It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some changing kind of the way you do things. But putting in more time is not the solution. It's impossible. You have to learn new skills. Think about this for a minute. Let's say in your world, you close $10,000 a month in new business. That's kind of where you're at. But you work 10 hours a day. Some of us work more than that. Some work a little less, but call it 10 hours a day. And, you're doing $10,000 a month. So to get to 20 hours a month, you'd have to work like 20 hours a day? It makes no sense. Like, it absolutely makes no sense. You got to learn new skills. So the ultimate goal here is to solve customer problems, but that can't be done until after they buy. That's the quandary here. You want to solve their problems, but they don't. You're selling them on the concept that we're gonna solve their problems, but you can't really do it until after they buy and they implement the solution. That's the difficulty here. So problem finding is where you need to start. It's at the core of all sales. And it comes down to asking the right question at the right time to find problems the customer never even knew they had. And this is an art form. It really is, because a lot of times as salespeople, we just want to go with whatever the customer says. I hate my UCaaS provider. And, we're down all the time. So right away, you're there. Okay, I'm going to solve that problem, which is great. Like, that's a problem they want to solve, which is great. They're already doing a lot of the work for you. But the important thing is to have the right questions in your arsenal, because you know what? During that conversation, you may find two other things that they didn't even know they had a problem with, but you're now exposing that as a problem and bringing it to the forefront. So now all of a sudden, maybe that UCaaS sale becomes UCaaS, new bandwidth, backup bandwidth, and SD-WAN. Right now, all of a sudden, you take a deal that was good and make it great. And I think too often we forget about that. And, I always think, like, what what holds back people? Like, you take an average performer or even a less than average performer, and why aren't they a top 1%er? Because in my world, that's where I always want to be. I want to be the best of the best. I want to be in rare air. I want to be the batter in baseball who consistently bats 325, has 100 RBIs, 20, 30 home runs. You know, I want to be that person. But not everyone maybe wants it, right? And the reason that the big reason that holds these people back is, I call them product pushers, right? It's you know, just throwing all the crap against the wall. Hopefully something sticks, and you know, hopefully you get a sale. Now you'll notice I said hope. It's because these people are taking a drug. I call it hopium. It's a drug that like many salespeople take, and I can't stand it. Honestly, it drives me nuts when I hear people say, well, I hope this closes. Hope means zero. It may make you feel better, but you know, these people are sniffing it every morning, and they're hoping that they have some fancy slide in their prezo that gets the client to buy. It's not a strategy. It doesn't work. And I think the quicker we can understand that, the better. So step 2 is asking the right questions at the right time in the conversation. So let's jump into this. So behavioral science, if you look at behavioral science, there are 3 different forms of communication in sales. I call them eras, right? So era 1 was the old used car salesman approach, right? You know, it's boiler room selling, you know, pressure tactics, pushing, manipulating the customer. I would bet 0 people on this call do that, right? But it's important to understand how things have moved throughout the years. You know, so but I bet you people on this call do pieces of this, right? So example, long presentations. Everyone's telling the same story, guys. You know, if your presentation to the customer is more than 10% of your whole sales process, you're not being persuasive. I always like to say ditch to pitch, right? Have a conversation. Here's another one that I would bet a lot of people do, is wanting to tell your story. Let's be real. They don't care. You know, they care about some of the nuances, like, you know, I'm thinking in Mike's in ETS, I would want to know that they give back to charity. That's a pretty important thing to people, I think, right? And it's fine to talk about your story, but it shouldn't be the focus of how you're selling. You know, as an example, you know, anyone find themselves going into a sales presentation, and then, you know, what happens is the salesperson is chomping at the bit. It's like a pit bull, in a junkyard. And that pit bull, even though they're asking the customer, yeah, tell me what's going on there. I'd love to hear your story. They don't care. They don't care. You could see it in their face. They want to start talking, and they want to tell their story, why they're so good, you know, why their company is so good, why their products are so good, blah, 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 blah. But the problem is the customers don't care about that. What they care about is themselves. You know, people are creatures of habit. So by you focusing on you instead of them, that's a big problem, especially in today's world with all the younger people coming up into the workforce. I mean, you can't even get these people to call you on the phone or take a phone call. You know, I know with my kids, they won't take a call from me no matter what, but they'll text me right back for, you know, because quickness, speed, it's, you know, they don't want to hear a lot of the story. Next thing is putting pressure on them, putting sales pressure on them, trying to get them to feel internal pressure to change rather than pushing them. And then the last thing is like assuming the sale. It's old school. Even though that was a very effective method at points, assuming the sale is kind of gone to the wayside. Now, quick question. Anyone know what the 70s were used for? Let's take a roll back to the 70s. I got Saturday Night Fever and some disco crazies here. But, the 70s were an interesting time because it was like we were coming out of the 60s and, and people were kind of opening up and kind of being themselves and doing their own things. I would like to see Mike Russell do some disco, honestly. I think that'd be fun to watch. I would actually pay good money to see that, Mike.
I have that John Travolta outfit. Believe me, I do. And there's pictures on Facebook of me in that outfit.
Video it next time you do that, Mike. I'm going to video.
Oh, my God. You just made me choke on my soda. Oh, God, that was funny. But, the 70s were known for a lot of things. But, one of the things I want to ask you before I kind of get to the next slide is, how many of you consider yourselves a consultative salesperson? Sit down with the customer, consult with them. Raise your hands if you think. Okay, cool. So interesting. You're probably going to be floored by this. Consultative sales was built in 1971. It is now 53 years old. Mind-blowing, honestly. When I heard that, I was like, my head exploded because I'm thinking, wait a minute, most people in the world today consider themselves consultative sales people. Yet it's like 54 years old. Like there's got to be something newer than that.
Or like, Ira, to your point, though, if you explain, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a consultant. Most people have no clue what that means.
No idea, dude.
Yeah.
So what, and not to say it's not effective, because it can be effective, right? This has been around for 54 years, and it's been pretty good. But basically what it is, it's a sales approach that prioritizes relationship building and open dialogue to address customer needs. Now you notice here, it's all around the customer needs. It's not around solving problems. This is, I think, where it's kind of gone off the rails here now that we're in kind of, I'll call it modern times. Because the conversation is really focused on the customer's challenges and goals rather than the product's features. So you're assuming that the customer understands fully what their needs are. And, so the questions come up of, does the customer even understand what their needs are? And what if there are other needs that they don't realize they have? You're then not uncovering new additional revenue sources that could potentially come up. So like, here are some questions I never want to hear a salesperson say. Drives me nuts. Yet people use them all the time. What are 2 problems that are keeping you awake at night? Makes me want to vomit. Can you tell me the top 2 challenges you're having? What are you looking for in a solution? What sort of budget do you have set aside? Even though budget's important, there are better ways of asking that, I think. See, these are all what do you call surface level questions. They don't get the customer to feel the pain, to feel the real pain of what you're trying to solve. These are consultative sales types of questions. So there are, like I said, there are better, more effective ways, and I'm going to give you lists and lists of these different questions as we go through the training. But just remember this, that you don't want to be surface level with the customer. You almost want to be like a psychologist or a counselor, right? Where you're really listening to them and really trying to understand where they're coming from as a person, and what the problems are that they have, but more importantly, what do those problems cause for them? Is it maybe they're, go back to that UCAS example. Their UCAS company, they don't like their customer service and they're down often. So what, which is great. We could solve that, Mr. Customer. But before we do that, let's talk about what does it mean to you? Like when you're down, what does that actually mean to you as a company? Get them to start talking about the value of solving those problems, because what you're doing while asking those questions is you're taking the sales resistance out of the question. Psychologically, what you're doing is you're getting them to sell themselves. Think about that. Because, a lot of times people use the assumptive close or something like that, some sort of technique to close a sale. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you've addressed every problem, you've showed how you can solve them, and most importantly, you've shown what it means to the customer? That makes the closing much, much easier. So those are surface level questions that show that you really don't care. You're just trying to go through the motions. And going through the motions, people catch on to it now. They get it. They're quick to make those decisions. Now, area 3, this is what we're going to really concentrate on. So this is called dialogue selling. And really what we're doing is we're allowing others to persuade themselves when we're using something called NEPQ, neuro, emotional, persuasive questions. So what you're doing is you're asking questions that are getting them to think, getting them to feel the emotion, persuading themselves to help take that sales resistance away. And they're not designed to get people to say what you want them to say. They're not surface level questions. They're actually designed to bring out their inner and external truths, their emotional state, their emotional feelings. And this is the new generation of sales. This is where, like the top people in the world are really moving towards this type of scenario. Now, before I get into the different phases, I just want to open it up, take a minute, let me take a drink, and I want you guys to tell me about what you think about the 3 phases that you've heard of so far. Or the 3 eras, sorry. We had boiler room, consultative sales, and then dialogue sales.
You flip back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
Not that one. One more. Yeah, there we go. All right.
I will say it makes sense. I mean, and even even consultative selling can have elements of this if you do what you talked about in the beginning, which is you're having a conversation. You're trying to uncover and help the customer uncover what the issues are in a sincere conversation.
Correct. Too often, salespeople aren't sincere, Alan. There's not. They're very surface level. They just want to get to the close. They want to hunt, kill, and get on.
You're making you have to be thinking and making this personal, right? Instead of it being external, it's internal. One of the first sales trainings I ever did, and this has been 25 years or so, the leader that really harped on level with the person that you're dealing with, whoever they are, right? They might be the gateway to the next person, but understand their personal motivations and let them know that you're actually concerned with helping them win. That's how you make a champion. So understanding the, the personal impact, I think, is part of this messaging that you're providing here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if think about the roles everyone's in here, we're all in this role of, we want to be the trusted advisor to the customer, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And because, if we can get them there, well, we got a customer for life, which is where the value is for everybody on the call. So you're right, Brad, getting them to that emotional state, that personal state where they're instead of just having a conversation with you about what it is that's happening, they're having a conversation with you on how it's affecting them and how fixing it would positively affect them. You're taking them on this journey of realization, which is very powerful. I'm starting to use this a lot in my personal life, friends, family, and stuff like that, because frankly, I've never been a great listener. I've always want to say my piece. I've been that traditional salesperson, where I want to get to the meat and potatoes. I want to say what I have to say, but I noticed I would fail too much doing that. So, even in personal stuff. So now, after learning these things, I'm now taking a step back, especially with friends and family, and, hearing them out and just, and not jumping to conclusions, not jumping in and wanting to fix them. Right? Because that's a traditional sales approach. I want to fix it. 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 But there may be more underlying there. So let's get into the different phases. So there are 5 different stages of this NEPQ types of sale process. So basically, the first step is there's a connecting stage. I think we used to call it rapport building, but rapport building is so lame, honestly. Again, it's surface level. It's nonsense. Hey, how's the weather down there? I even did it on this call today. You know what? I fell into that trap. I did it at the very beginning. I said, oh, it's going to be hot here in Arizona. People are on that stuff. They know it's not real. So there are a whole sequence of questions that we can ask to kind of build the connection with the customer. And the concept is, put the focus on them and not you, right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. Second stage is the engagement stage. So there are different, and within engagement, that's when you're trying to engage the client and get them kind of bought in. So you're asking things like situational questions, basic stuff, who are your customers today? What are the types of services you're using? Because you gotta understand the situation. But then you move right into problem awareness questions. This is when you're starting to open the emotional door to finding out what their problems are, why they have those problems, and how it's affecting them. You're starting to hook them here, right? Next step, you take them into solution awareness. So now what you're doing, you've identified the situation, you made them aware of the problem, you got that emotional door open. Then you go into solution awareness. So now the idea is to ask some questions that get them to think about the ideas and strengthening the benefits of solving their problems, right? You're bringing them down this path of what if we were to solve these problems for you, Mr. Customer? And then once you take them there, you go to what we call consequence questions. So a consequence question is, you're helping them identify that what happens if they don't solve the problem. Brad, to your point, what we're doing here is we're trying to take them out of that situation of not doing anything. So there's a method to the madness here. right? So we've took them through the situation. We've made them aware of the problem. We've made them, aware of the solution. We've made them aware of what's going to happen if we don't solve the problem. And then we go through qualifying questions, and we're basically asking them, if what's important for them to make a change and to take action. Mike, this is going to your BANT thing a little bit, right? This is looking at needs and timeline and trying to understand, like making them think in their head, yeah, it's important we actually do this. Because I know a lot of times you sit on with a customer and you're like, what's the time frame for this? And because I asked a surface level question, what's the answer I get normally? I don't know. Like we're not sure. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. They're giving me a surface level question back, or surface level answer back. So after engagement stage, you move into transition stage, and this is transitioning over to presenting your solution. Do you notice that you're way in deep into the presentation here? You haven't even talked a bit about what you do yet, because you want them feeling like this is about them. And then it's like, oh, by the way, here's who we are, here's how we do things, and this is why it's so important, why it should be so important to you, and you relating it back to all the answers you've taken in along the way. And remember, your presentation should be no more than 10-15% of the whole pitch. It doesn't have to be deep. The deeper it gets, the more boring it is, and the more you lose people. So you transition over to the presentation, and you're showing your advantages, your benefits, and more importantly, how what you do is going to solve their problems. And then you go on to the commitment stage, and there's this whole series of committing questions where it's basically helping them commit and asking them to take the next steps. Does this make sense to you? Any questions about this or comments? All right, I'll take it as a no. So we're going to go back to the very beginning of that chart. So we're going to go back here to the the connecting questions right at the beginning. The first 7 to 12 seconds of your call is it is so crucial, because what they're doing is they're picking up on your verbal and your nonverbal cues. They are making decisions in their head of, do I like this person or not? Can I trust this person or not? So you've got to be really careful in that first 7 to 12 seconds. A lot of times salespeople come across greedy or aggressive or needy. And what it does is it triggers an instant fight or flight response. Neither of those do you want to happen. Because if you come across that way and they start fighting with you, like right away they're putting up their dukes and they're trying, this is going to be a dragged out battle. That sucks. I've been in many of those. And honestly, at the time, I didn't even realize I was probably causing that, or flight response, where they're like on maybe it's a cold call you're doing or something like that, and right away they give you the Heisman, right? And they say, oh yeah, just send me some information. That's a flight response. They're trying to figure out, how do I get away from this person, right? So it could be that they're just busy, but it could be you triggered it. Something about what you didn't come across the right way. So, you get responses like, I don't have time to talk. How much does it cost? Can you send me quote or information? How often do you hear this in sales? Quite often. right? Now, maybe not like if it's a warm lead, like Mike, you were saying, it's a warm lead, they're coming in, you're probably not going to hear these things too much. But if you're going after the cold market or lukewarm market, you're going to potentially hear those things. So the key is you need to come across relaxed and detached. That's hard to do. Detach from the sale. You got to have collected confidence, but you've also got to be detached, meaning if I don't make the sale, it's fine. Because that comes across when it's clear somebody has to make the sale. They're at maybe the end of the rope on their job, and they need to close something to keep their job or whatever. It comes across to the customer, whether you mean it or not, it's going to come across. So the biggest thing I've found is becoming detached from whether or not I make the sale is super critical, because what it does is it triggers their brain to become curious. You see, that's what you want. You want the customer to be curious. You want them to think, psychologically, this guy's pretty confident, but he's not really pushing me. He must know something. And they open up because they feel that there's something important to talk about. Again, it's the level of importance of things, because like you, every customer is super busy. Right? I mean, they're running and gunning. They got a million things going on. They got emails coming in, Slack messages coming in. They've got Teams messages coming in. They got calls that they can't answer. They got a boss who needs something. So, you need to come across with collected confidence, so they feel like they become curious and they want to open up to you. Does that make sense? Any comments about doing that? Because it's a little different, right? It's to detach from, to detach from whether or not you make a sale sounds scary. Like, I got to admit, when I first heard that, it felt a little scary to me. But then as I started thinking through it and actually trying it, the results were pretty good. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
I agree with you, Ira, and I think that one thing I've noticed when I do that is remembering that even though I'm allowed to detach myself from the deal, to just remember to keep up with the deal. So still setting reminders to send an email every week, but not with the verbiage of, hey, this needs to move forward, just the verbiage of, hey, I'm here for you and I'm not rushing you.
Yeah. And I want to clarify something, because this could be taken the wrong way. Is detached does not mean that you don't care.
Right.
Right? Like you said, Emily, like, it's not that you don't care, you're still following up, but you can't come across as needy. Right? Because the minute, like, I'm not going to ask you if anyone on this call has done this. Okay. I'm just going to ask you in general if somebody's done this. How many, for the partners on the call, how many of you have had a channel manager call you at the end of the month and say, what can you get done for me? I need to hit my number. Okay, Mike, Alan, I don't see everybody. I'm looking over here because I have another screen, but raising their hands. Chris raised his hand. That's definitely not detached, right? And Mike, Alan, Chris, I saw you guys all raise your hand. What do you think when somebody does that?
Well, a couple things, and I want to address the last question too. The thing that I think about is I love being on this side of the wall because I have no end of month. My timeline is the customers. Now, that said, I don't want to have that boiler room mentality, and I do want to come up with the best solution for my client, but I still want to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that never goes away, no matter which of those eras you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, my comment has always been, I don't care what your quota is or what you need to hit. All I care about is my client, and I will not pass on the fact that if they sign by June 30th, that they're going to get a free month, because you're going to give them a free month on July the 4th when I sell.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So, from a channel manager side, yeah, just you can't. I would never portray that to a potential client at all. Any month-end, quarter-end deals. Those deals are all the time.
Or Ira, to your point, confronting directors and vice presidents because the deal's so big that you have about 50 people involved, and explaining you will kill the deal. We've done everything that we've needed to do to meet the timelines, and now it's just a waiting game, and
Yeah,
unfortunately that's how it happens.
Yeah, so as everyone can see, those types of non-detached things irritate people, and it's not effective. As a matter of fact, it turns people against you, because they're like, you know what? You obviously don't. This goes back to what I was saying, is like, you need to make the conversation more about the customer, not me. In this case, the conversation should have been more about the partner and not the channel manager. They obviously didn't understand what matters to you, right? But they still did it. It goes against what we were saying. Now, we only have like 8 minutes left, and I'm wondering if I should get into this next section or not. Let me just look at something here really quick. This is going to be a little long, but let's just start here, and we can kind of come back to this in our next session. So the first in that list of all the stages, the first one was connecting questions, right? And that's your first stage. The goal is to connect with your prospect. Duh. So here's some connecting questions that you can ask. Within the first 7 to 12 seconds, they're picking up on verbal, nonverbal, and it's triggering their brain to act one of two ways. If you come across as aggressive, needy, attached, they're going to go into fight or flight, and they're going to say things like we already talked about. If you come across as neutral, calm, and detached, and I gotta say, I'm going to point out Jen, you do a great job at that. Not say everyone doesn't do that, but I noticed that on a call we were on the other day. She comes across really neutral with partners and customers, which is great. But what that does is it triggers their brain to become curious, and so they want to learn more, they want to engage, and they feel like they can open up to you. Because when people feel like they're being sold to, that's when they put the wall up. We don't want that wall up. We want that wall down so we can kind of walk right onto the property. So you have to, while you're connecting, you have to set something called a frame. Have you guys ever heard of framing in sales? So what it basically is, it's called objection prevention using a framing question. You're trying to take away potential objections that may come down in the future by asking questions today. So like, here's an example. Like, it looks like you booked with us to look at possible outside help with your technology stack, and you wanted to ensure that the business is getting the best bang for the buck, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to frame the conversation around the fact that they want to get, they want to fix issues, and they want to get good bang for the buck. So, for spending the money, it's going to work worthwhile. Or, so what was it you guys were going over that caused you to want to look into what we do further? You're trying to get them to talk about what their problems are. And, the first part of the call is basic. It's more for us to find out what you're using right now. I like this one, by the way. What results you're getting, and just compare to what you might be wanting, and just see what that gap looks like. And at the end of the call, if you feel like it might be, what you're looking for, we can discuss possible next steps. Would that help you? Are you with me? So you notice there's some important aspects of these two paragraphs. anytime you see 3 dots, that means there's a pause there. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the person to grab certain parts of the conversation. And one of the things I learned in public speaking, one of the best things I ever learned, actually made me become a lot better than I was. I hired a speaking coach, a guy who used to work for Anthony Robbins. And I went for a weekend to his place, and for days, that's all we did is learn public speaking. It was cool. But one of the things he taught me, and it felt really weird at first, like really weird, is like, and I tried it if any of you were at NextCon, I tried it at my first NextCon I opened up, which was about 2,000 partners there. And I got up on stage, they announce you and you walk out and you don't say a word. Nothing. Let them quiet down, because what it does is it commands attention. After the pause, it commands attention. So you can use that same technique within the sales process and within asking questions. So, going through this, and you don't want to use this stuff word for word, right? But it's just there as a base. But all right, Mr. Jones, the first part of the call is really basic. It's more for us to find out what you're using right now, what results you're getting, and compare it to what you might be wanting to see and what the gaps look like. And at the end of the call, if you feel like it might be what you're looking for. Now, the reason I say might be or potentially be, because you don't want to assume anything, right? The minute you start assuming, this is going to be the best thing for you, Mr. Customer. It's going to solve all your problems. It's going to be the best thing since Neapolitan ice cream, even though I hate Neapolitan ice cream. It sucks, in my opinion. But you can't go down that path, because then you're disingenuous. But yet that's where salespeople want to lean. They want to lean into, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. So you say things like might be, potential to be. Then you're breaking them down psychologically so they're more open to talking to you. And would that help you? And then you're like, who's going to say no? They're going to say, of course that would help me. Like, if you can find some stuff that's going to be really good for us and it meets what we need, of course we're gonna do it. And again, you're building that, getting out of the sales reluctance part. So we got 1 minute left. So I'm going to stop it right here, and we'll continue on in the next session from here. But I want to just quickly hear what you guys think so far. If you think we're onto the right thing, if you like it, if you don't like it, it's all cool. It doesn't matter to me, but I'd just like to hear kind of what you're thinking.
All right, I think this is good. I mean, it's just reminders too. And you talked about the 3 different errors. I think there's good things out of all 3 errors that we could bring into also, right? So it's not like you're completely changing. And you're right. You hit it on the head when you said, make sure you continually change the way you do things, because the market's changing, the products are changing, the way people are buying changing. But I wanted to go and let you know that I posted a picture of the proper attire for technology consulting in the chat just now. So when you talk about the 70s and 80s consultative selling, this is the proper attire you should wear when you go to a meeting. And I promise you, if you wear this, you'll close the sale every time.
I can't unsee that.
I want to make that my background.
Appealing to the emotions and everything there. I think that's spot on, Mike.
It is. Talk about being calm, and when you go to me, this will make you pretty calm.
Yeah.
I want to know why we're not seeing the John Travolta suit instead.
Because I couldn't find it, but I promise you before the next call I will have it.
That's funny. So question for you all. I want to open this up to the group. I had planned on doing one of these a quarter. So next one in September, and then the next one in like November or something like that. Do you guys want to keep on that schedule and just do parts 2 and parts 3 later in the year? Or do you want to expedite that and get more of it in more quickly, like over the next 2 months?
Ira,
If we
what
could
would
keep
you
I
it
think
an
you've
hour.
left us dangling here, right?
Yeah, you
Like,
did,
well,
because I want to see some of those questions. I think if you keep it in an hour, Ira, I mean, I'd love to do it more quickly. We could even do monthly if it's an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ira, I
Great.
would like to see you do a faux sales call on using this process.
Yeah,
Because
we're gonna-
it would fill in some holes for me.
We'll do some of that probably in the third session.
Okay.
But yes. So okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll move it to monthly. So, you know, maybe we'll do July and August if that works for you all. Okay. Hopefully you took away some sort of golden nugget or two today. I'm just saying be open to this and be open to just trying some of this stuff. Like you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for all the questions. You know, start just at least taking some of the concepts and use them in your sales presentation. You know, start thinking more about how do I make it more about the customer, less about me? How do I take our presentation and move it later in the process so it feels like it's more about the customer? You know, you're never going to get it all perfectly right. I think too often people just wait and don't do anything because they feel inundated, like, oh my God, I can't do this. There's too much. Just take one or two things and just start on it. And then I recorded this. I'm gonna put it up on, I don't know if I'll put it up on Telesystem or I have a YouTube channel. I might put it there, but I'll put it up online today. So if you want to share it or you want to go back and rewatch it because you loved it so much, you know, you can rewatch it. But thanks for joining, everybody. Appreciate it. And we love you all and have a good rest of the day.
Hey,
Thanks,
Cal,
Ira.
see you later. Bye-bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
partners.
Ira. Appreciate it.